Amen. So I'm going to share with you today one of the more curious liturgical items I've received in the course of my ministry career. It is this stole. Many of you have seen it before, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it on for the moment. Many of you have seen this before. You've seen the other side, which is a Green Bay Packers print. Most recently seen here on the day that the Packers played the Cowboys in the playoffs. Whatever happened then anyway, I forgot. But this side is fabric in the pattern of the White Sox logo. And there's a story behind this, as you would expect, which is that this was a gift from someone at my last church that I served. And it came about because this church was part of a cooperative ministry that provided overnight shelter for people who were homeless in Lake County, Illinois, which is not a place with a lot of homeless shelters and that sort of thing. So different churches would take different nights to be essentially a pop-up shelter. And the men, it was all men at our site, 30-some men would come. They would sleep in our church basement. They would get some food and a warm, safe place to spend the night before going back to Waukegan to be part of the other services that the organization provided. And it was a powerful ministry. It was a wonderful ministry, and it was a challenge to staff. So we encouraged people to join up into groups or teams to be part of this ministry. The ministry was called PADS. And we set a Sunday in the fall to be, quote, Team Up for Pads Sunday, when everyone was encouraged to wear their favorite sports team gear to church. So there was this sea of people dressed in college logos and football teams and baseball teams and the like. And there was me dressed in my alb and my stole, which I did every single Sunday of the year. So someone in the congregation thought it would be a good idea to make a stole for me and for my colleague with our sports teams. I was known in this congregation as being a Packers fan and a White Sox fan. In this community, and you have to understand, if you are not from Chicago or you haven't spent time there, Chicago is an absolutely depraved sports city. It is deranged. It's bad, okay? And this was very much a Cubs and Bears community, not a Packers or White Sox community. Those of us who were Packers fans or White Sox fans were in the minority. So they made this stole for me with my teams on it, and they made a Packers and a Bears and Cubs stole for my colleague because those were her teams. And they took pictures of us together. And when I saw it, my immediate reaction was horror. Because I thought, this is sacrilegious. This is the worship of the living God. This is not an alumni tailgate. Like, that is not my job here. To wear sports gear while I am leading the worship of the living God, like the God. There's one, and it's important. This is ridiculous. This is so bad. But people were very nice. They were very nice about this. And so I decided for this one Sunday a year, I would be, no pun intended, a good sport about it. And I would wear the White Sox Packers stole. Now, it has been a kind of delightful week for church-going White Sox fans. Because as we discussed last Sunday, the cardinals of the Catholic Church were gathering for a conclave to elect the new Bishop of Rome. And on Wednesday they did, and the man they elected to be Leo XIV, Pope Leo XIV, is a native of the United States of America, first pope to be from the United States. And even more importantly than that, he is the first pope to be from Chicago. From the south suburbs of Chicago, a town called Dolton, right south of the city. Now, as I mentioned, Chicago is an absolutely depraved sports city. So as soon as the news gets out, rumors start spreading about the new pope's sports allegiances. And the story comes out right away, repeated, and again, this is how depraved it is up there, repeated by a sitting United States senator, that the new pope was a Cubs fan. But journalists start reaching out to his friends and family, and because this all happens very fast, nobody gets any media training, nobody knows, don't answer your phone for a couple days until we can get you some talking points. So they get hold of the new pope's brother, who tells anyone who will listen, he is absolutely not a Cubs fan. Like, there's one thing you have to understand about Leo XIV, the vicar of Christ, the supreme pontiff, the Bishop of Rome, that he's not a Cubs fan. He's a White Sox fan, always has been. And there's pictures of him at the 2005 World Series, and it's a moment of sort of shock, because one of the first jobs of the Vatican press office under the new pope is to field questions from the media about, wait a minute, is the Pope actually a White Sox fan? And the Vatican news office, I mean, they probably had never heard of the White Sox before this day, right? And so the Vatican news office has to confirm. I'm sorry. The Vatican press office has to confirm that the Pope is a fan of the worst team in Major League Baseball. And people are so excited. Chicagoans are excited. They're sharing pictures, AI-generated pictures of the Pope in front of a Heilmann's old-style tavern sign, and instead of the papal insignia, and in Bears vestments, and they show pictures of the Chicago-style Italian beef, like a priest holding an Italian beef sandwich, getting ready to baptize it in a baptistry full of the cooking gravy that you use, that you dunk the sandwiches in. And the same thing, interestingly, is happening in Peru, where the former Cardinal Prevost was a priest and bishop for 20 years before being transferred to Rome. They're sharing pictures of him eating ceviche and drinking Inca Cola, which is the local soft drink. And it's this weird little festival of people being excited about their particularities, their oddities of their culture and their place. The shock of thinking that at one point, maybe, I was at the same White Sox game as the current Bishop of Rome. And the reason people react this way is because I think there really isn't any community in the world right now that is like the Catholic Church, that addresses itself to all of humanity everywhere. And there is no office like the office of the Bishop of Rome, whose job is to speak to all humanity, not as a representative of one nation, not as a representative of one people or ethnicity or language, but as someone who addresses them on behalf of God. And when you think about vestments, for example, they exist in part to reduce the individuality of the person who is standing before you. I'm not supposed to be here speaking to you as a citizen of the United States of America, of Danish and German extraction, from the state of Wisconsin, who, for some accursed reason deep in my psychology, cares about the Chicago White Sox. I'm supposed to speak to you on behalf of Jesus Christ and in the place of Jesus Christ, who is a universal person, a person for all people. It is that relationship between the oddities, the peculiarities, the chance relationships of our lives and the universal role, the universal message of the gospel that creates so much delight and so much awe and so much sometimes irritation. There's a theological term for this. It may or may not surprise you to know. A theological interpretation. And that is the scandal of particularity. Don't be intimidated. It's actually fairly straightforward. And the idea is that God, in our faith, communicates and acts through and makes covenants with particular people and groups of people who, all on their own, do not seem to be at all worthy of the honor God makes a covenant with Abraham. And if you've read Genesis, you know that Abraham's behavior is not exemplary from that point forward. God makes a covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all of Jacob's descendants, and their behavior is never exemplary. Yet God makes an agreement with them. God chooses to act through Mary, a girl in the town of Nazareth, an unexceptional town, a girl with nothing particular to recommend her, but God chooses her. And God acts in the world in the person of Jesus Christ. He becomes flesh in an ordinary person from an ordinary place, even whose neighbors say, "Isn't this Jesus we know, the son of the carpenter? How did he get so big?" And so the mind stumbles at particularity. It is offended by particularity. God really chose Mary? Why Mary? Why not someone else? God really made a covenant with the people of Israel? God really is acting through Jesus Christ today. In the gospel passage, Jesus tells the people in Jerusalem, "The Father and I are one." And that is offensive to people's expectations. The scandal of particularity. But the truth is, we only know the universal. We only know the big picture through those pieces that God gives us to grasp, through those experiences in our own lives and in the people around us. And that is so vividly represented to us in the reading today from Revelation, where John the visionary looks around him and he sees what he calls a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages. From all tribes and peoples and languages and nations. And this is a moment of awe. This is a moment of astonishment that God has been at work in all of these places all along. People John the visionary would never have seen, never have known, never have suspected. And they are all there worshiping God, around God, in the holy city that comes down to earth from heaven. And the elders, one of the elders asks him, "Who are these robed in white? And where have they come from?" And John the visionary says, "No, you're the one who knows." And the elder tells him, "They are the ones who have come out of the great ordeal. They've washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. And they come from every nation and every language and every tribe and every people." And it is a reminder that our faith puts together people across so many differences. And it creates this scandal of particularity. In a world where people will believe on paper, they will stand in church and confess that they are going to share eternity with people whom they do not wish to share a neighborhood with, or a school, or a curriculum, or a world. And this experience of difference forces us, it pushes us in one of two directions. Either we try to throw our arms wider in just the way that God does, or we try to pull back into our own particularity, into our own little sense of identity, and shut more and more people out. And I don't know what John the visionary would have expected or what his life was like. We really don't know anything about him at all. All we know is what he saw. But what he sees is something that opens his eyes and opens his mind to the vastness of God made known through all these particular people. Try to picture it right now. A multitude across every form of difference and diversity that you can imagine. Not just in broad strokes, but in individual faces. And what draws them all together in this image? What draws them around the throne of God? The blood of the Lamb. The man tells him, the elder tells him, the one who is seated on the throne will shelter them. They will hunger no more and thirst no more. The sun will strike them. The sun will not strike them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd and will guide them to springs of the water of life, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. What is universal about humanity? What we have in common, what binds us as one, though we are many, is our need. We need protection and shelter from this world. We might think we don't. We might think we've got it sorted out so that we don't need it. But we do. And we need water. And we need community. And we need guiding and leading and protection. And the great mass of humanity that the visionary sees today are people who have been brought together by the one who cares for their needs and who wipes away their tears. That is the universal that comes out of the particular. And I've really been wanting to do this from the moment I put it on. It still is very uncomfortable. But it is the shepherd who sees to our need, who makes one out of many, who makes us one humanity out of all of our differences, all of the places we come from, all of the foods we eat, all of the peculiarities of our speech and our bodies and our memories and our habits. All of those become one in the worship of the one who gives them what everybody needs. Amen.